Thank you, Mr. President. Representing a delegation that has piloted the need for reformed multilateralism, India fully supports any initiative that genuinely furthers the objective of achieving meaningful and comprehensive reform of the key elements of the global multilateral architecture. In the context of the United Nations, this has inter alia implied bringing the structure and composition of the Security Council in line with contemporary geopolitical realities through its comprehensive reforms across the 5 clusters of categories of membership. That is question of veto, regional representation, size of an enlarged Security Council, improving its working methods, and improving the Council's relationship with General Assembly. Our leaders have repeatedly tasked us with delivering early and comprehensive reform of the Security Council, a task which over the years of textless, fruitless deliberations in the IGN remains not only unfulfilled, but blocked by those perpetuating the outdated status quo. In effect, a vocal minority of naysayers have held the entire process of Security Council reform hostage over the last 4 decades. The only way to begin to remedy what ails the Security Council is to make it more representative, credible, and legitimate by including more underrepresented voices, including from developing countries and from Africa. My delegation has the following 5 issues of concern on the present initiative. First, this very UN General Assembly had unanimously agreed via Decision 62/557 in 2008 that all 5 aspects of UN Security Council reform, including on the question of veto, would be decided in a comprehensive manner, and therefore no single cluster could be addressed in isolation. When a group of pro-reform member states, including India, had moved a similar such initiative nearly a decade ago, which also called for an improvement in the working methods of the Council, we were accused of promoting a piecemeal approach to UN Security Council reform. It is therefore ironical that the same set of member states who argue vociferously against piecemeal reform in the IGN are today themselves supporting a piecemeal initiative which ignores the root cause of the problem. We therefore hope that other piecemeal efforts focusing on aspects of category of membership and working methods of the Council would be treated without any double standards and with a similar yardstick in the future. Second, all 5 permanent members have used the veto over the last 75 years to achieve their respective political ends. In this regard, let me flag what our African brothers and sisters have repeatedly stated in the IGN. I quote, "The veto as a matter of principle should be abolished. However, as a matter of common justice, it should be extended to new permanent members so long as it continues to exist." Unquote. The privilege of using the veto has been vested to only 5 member states. The UN General Assembly can do very little about it, as effectively the P5 have a veto over the veto. As rightly called out by our African brothers and sisters, it goes against the concept of sovereign equality of states and only perpetuates the mindset of the Second World War. To the victor belongs the spoils. Either all nations are treated equally in the context of voting rights, or else the new permanent members must also be given the veto. By bringing veto to the General Assembly as a standalone issue on which the remaining membership has no de facto say, and by implying that this issue needs to be addressed first, above all other substantive issues of UN Security Council reform, is giving disproportionate importance to one issue over all others. This flawed approach is therefore an aberration. Third, the provisions of this resolution also tend to relitigate the provisions of the UN Charter, as they entail structural changes in the relationship between the UN General Assembly and the Security Council. These will impact the internal decision-making dynamics of the Council. Fourth, the proponents of the resolution claim that automaticity of the standing mandate is meant to empower the General Assembly. Mr. President, we fail to understand how can removing the discretion and decision-making ability of the President of the General Assembly and the membership empower the General Assembly. There are already mechanisms in place which enable the membership of the General Assembly to decide on an emergency basis to convene discussions or even take action on issues that reach stalemate in the Security Council. We need not add an automatic invocation of another mechanism by rewriting the existing rules. The wider implications of today's decision bring us to our final and fifth point. A substantive and important resolution such as this, with profound long-term ramifications on the relationship between two major organs of the UN, their mandates, and internal working dynamics, demand much more serious, in-depth, and inclusive deliberation than was allowed by the movers of this text. We regret the lack of inclusivity in the manner this resolution was put forth. We have serious concerns about such take it or leave it initiatives which do not make a genuine effort to take into account the perspectives and concerns of the wider membership. I thank you, Mr. President.